Hi, welcome to the TeenPact Elected Officials podcast. Today we're going to have on our guest Isaac Richardson.
Isaac's TeenPact journey first started in 2012 with him attending his first one-day class. From there, he attended the 4-day class from 2015 to 2016, staffed in 2017 to 2019, interned in 2020, PD'd in 2021, and is currently serving as a staff development intern. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Isaac Richardson.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here right now. I'm very excited.
Well, thank you so much. We're really excited too. Kind of just to start off this episode, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up outside of Kansas City, Missouri, in a very small rural part of the Midwest. Come from a very small town of only a few hundred people. When I was a kid, I was a big outdoorsy kid. I basically grew up outside. I was running around making forts and playing with sticks and in dirt and things like that. So I really had a great childhood, and I got involved in TeenPact at a fairly young age when I was 12, and then went to my first 4-day class when I was 15, and from then on, I was really involved in the TeenPact ministry, and still am to this day. It was a really formidable, I guess you would say, I'll go back. It was a very instrumental part of my life growing up and to this day. So I work at Starbucks, or I worked at Starbucks as a barista and assistant manager for over 5 years. So that was a really, really fun opportunity for me. Really enjoyed that. So yeah, it's a little about me. And I also have a great family, and 3 awesome siblings and 2 great parents. So
Awesome, yeah. So if you guys tell us a little bit about your TeenPact story, how would you communicate that?
yeah, so I got started in TeenPact, like I said earlier, when I was 12. So quite a ways, or quite a while ago. I was kind of forced to go to the one day, as most one-day students are, and then I was just that student who really didn't give a rip about anything, and just was yeah, I'm here to party. I literally didn't wear a belt. I don't know why, but I didn't wear a belt to my first one-day class, and I'm just wow, what? I was such a clown. I went to my first 4-day several years later in 2015. I was forced to go. Really, actually, looking back, it's a really cool story of how I even got involved in TeenPact. We got, and by we I mean my parents, were contacted by one of their friends, and apparently they had a mutual friend who thought I would be really involved in TeenPact, or I would be really I would really enjoy being involved in TeenPact. And so they offered to pay for me to go to my first 4-day class. So they fully covered everything. And to this day, I still don't know who it was who paid for my first 4-day class. But begrudgingly, I went kicking and screaming, did not want to go at all, pushed all my homework back to the very last day I possibly could. But then once I got to the class, and once I got into the week, I realized how much I enjoyed it, and I was having a great time. Not only did I make friends, because honestly I thought it was gonna be nerd camp. I really thought I was signing up for government nerd camp, and I was I will hate this. This is not something I'm interested in at all. But I ended up taking away from the week. I really got a good example of what it means to be a follower of Jesus, just by the staffers and fellow students and my peers who were there. So that was a really, really big moment for me, in my TeenPact journey, just my first class. I was wow, these are people my own age actually following Jesus, and this is what it looks like. So after that, I went to as many alumni events as I could. I staffed for several years. Served as an intern and a program director. So it's been a really crazy, crazy journey. The Lord has been with me every step of the way, just giving me so many opportunities that I truly don't deserve at all. So just been a really, really big blessing over the years.
That's a really awesome story, and kind of just explaining what your TeenPact experiences was like. You mentioned how at first, and I think this is the same experience for many people, they view TeenPact as simply just a nerd camp, and it's that mom forced me to go, but then I went to TeenPact and I started loving TeenPact.
Right.
So could you tell us a little bit about kind of what changed your mind when you got to that first one-day class, and then that 4-day class, of what exactly changed your mind about TeenPact and why you began to love it so much?
Well, I'll tell you, like for the 1-day class, it's not really a deep answer. Like I just kind of had fun, like at the 1-day class, and I wasn't expecting to have fun at all. Like I remember going on the scavenger hunt, like through the Missouri Capitol, and I was like, wow, this is great. And like watching the staff team do the Bill skit, and I was like, okay, this like actually makes sense. Like I'm really enjoying this. They're running around like crazy. This is great, free entertainment. And but for the 4-day. It really like ignited this interest in like politics, and like I was like, wow, like this is really interesting. And I was not interested at all, like really had no idea about like anything like going into it, but they presented it in such a palatable way. Like it was so like easy to understand. Just like the government aspects of it, it just like made sense. And then the community aspect also was a big plus for me. Like I walked into my class, there were probably like 50 something people, 55, 60 students there. And like I knew a few people like going in, which I didn't expect to, but then I met like a bunch of really, really cool students, and like I'm still friends with a couple of them to this day that were at my first class. So like I'd say that's probably the biggest like misconception I had, I guess. Like I just like did not expect to be interested, like to actually like learn anything, I guess, which is like I don't know like what I was thinking, but I didn't really like I was really surprised like how much I learned, plus the community that I grew into when I went there.
Yeah, that's so cool. So when you first did TeenPact, you did the 4-day class for I believe 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and from then you decided to apply to staff with TeenPact, and then you staffed for a couple of years. So tell me about that experience. What was your experience like serving within the ministry?
Yeah, staffing was so fun. Like that was one of, I look back and one of my staffing was one of my favorite experiences all through high school. It was something that I honestly like doubted myself a lot. Just like I doubted my capabilities, and like I doubted the fact that God would want to use me in any sort of way. And so when I was put into the position of staff, and when I was given that and I was blessed with that, that was a really big, like, I was like, wow, like this is crazy. It was such a, like, I could not believe it. I remember getting my staff letter in the mail, and I was just like, my hands were like shaking. I was like, oh my word, like I'm a TeenPact staffer. Like that's nuts. So I staffed for 3 different seasons. Each season was very, very different. Remember my first time staffing, I was super, super nervous, as is, I'm sure, literally every staffer. But I was just really nervous. Like I didn't want to mess anything up. And like, I ended up having like I remember having a really positive experience, but I was just I was a little nervous and just like not really sure like what was going on, even though everything had been thoroughly explained to me like at staff training. But I remember having a really good time, and just how fun it was to be in leadership. Like I'd been in leadership positions before in other like homeschool groups and stuff like that. But that was like staffing the first time was super, super big. And then the next year in 2018, I travel staffed, and I think I staffed 4 classes altogether. Super fun. It was that year was a really big year of growth for me. And just, I see like that season as a big like refining time in my life, where I realized there were a lot of things I just needed to work on about my character, and they really just were very evident in my travel staffing performance, I guess you could say. Travel staffing really just illuminated those things I could work on. And so I look back at that season of life with just so much thankfulness and gratefulness that it happened. And I learned so much. And then I came back to TeenPact and travel staff the next year. I did, I think, 6 classes, which looking back, I really don't know how I pulled that off with my schedule and everything, but I staffed several classes, and it was such a fun season of just service and yeah, so I loved it. It was such a good time. So yeah, staffing was one of my favorite experiences I've had in TeenPact. Like, it's literally like short-term missions. Like, if anyone who's listening has ever done that before, I know y'all have staffed on multiple classes, so y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. It's literally like short-term mission work, just like going from state to state, and it's just an absolute blast. So
yeah, absolutely. So 3 years is a long time to staff, I'll be honest. Were there any classes that like that came up that were like exceptionally good, or ones that are very memorable from those 3 years?
Oh boy. Yeah, so so I staffed a total of 10 classes. I served on 10 different staff teams when I was a staffer, and they're all very memorable for very different reasons. I did my last class as a staffer in 2019 was Massachusetts. That was crazy fun. The staff team I worked with was just filled with so many fun people I'm still really good friends with to this day. And we were literally in the heart of Boston, downtown Massachusetts, great place, just absolutely crazy though. It's a non-residential class, so there was no camp, and literally after all the students would be gone, we'd be going around the downtown area, just running around with the staff team, and it was just so fun and just so different. So that one was the weirdest, wackiest class I've ever been on, but in a good way, and I just have so many fun memories. But I really lucked out as far as my classes went, or my class selection went. I got to do classes on the East Coast, and then the West Coast. I did Washington, New Mexico, places like that. So I had a great time, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you interned in 2020, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So with you, it's kind of a unique perspective, because halfway through your intern season, COVID happened and the season was canceled. What was that experience like for you, and how did that really grow you?
It was a very big experience for me. It was a very, looking back, it was a very big life event. First of all, interning, it was something I'd wanted to do for several years. And so I felt like I was finally here, and I was all right, sweet. I'm interning, this is great. And even in my first class, I think was Tennessee. I was I was waiting for the staff team. I was chilling with one of my fellow interns, Logan, and we saw on the news something about this thing called coronavirus, and it was we were oh, the coronavirus, and even then, at the very beginning of the season, we were thinking about it, and it was a little thing in the back of our minds, but it wasn't anything serious, and then as the season progressed, and we heard a little bit more about it, and then we got to mid-season, and all of us interns were at the office in Richmond, and during our week of mid-season, we were hearing more and more about it, and that there were shutdowns in other countries, things like that, and it was oh my word, this is actually really serious. And so then I remember this day very clearly. It was the day that they decided to cancel, I think 2 or 3 weeks of classes. So effectively we were all sent home a day earlier, so from mid-season. It was a really hard day for all of us. I remember we were all sitting in the big conference room in the TeenPact office, just all just crying. I was wow, I've never seen several of y'all cry before. And then it was just it was a really hard day, because I think a lot of us knew deep down that it was kind of over. The season just wasn't gonna progress any further after that. So we got sent home, and then a few weeks later we got the official news that the season had been canceled, and then they canceled the alumni events and everything. And I absolutely stand by the office's decision to do that. I think they made the best call by far, just to keep everyone safe, especially because we just had a lot more questions than we did answers at that time. So I think it was absolutely the right call. But it was definitely a very hard pill to swallow. And I kind of realized, I was like, wow, like I've really made an idol, like, out of interning and like the internship specifically. Like it was so hard to let go of for so long, and it really tore me up. Like I was so sad. Like I literally, I worked all, like I came home from the TeenPact, like the mid-season, and I went like straight back to work, like at Starbucks. So I didn't really have a break, but every day after I'd get home, I'd go on like a 2 to 4 mile walk, just because I was like, I think it just how, like in hindsight, that's just how I was coping. Like I just walked a ton and just listened to audiobooks, like called friends and stuff like that, or just like walked in silence. Like it was a very like, it was a lot. Yeah. I felt like a profound sense of loss, and I know all the other interns and staffers did too. So, but yeah, it was, and y'all were both staffers that season, and I know that it was very difficult for everyone too. So I know y'all can probably relate to that, but I think there were just a lot of things like left, to up to question. Like we literally didn't know if TeenPact was going to be able to survive or not. We didn't know like if we would all like be together again, like my intern team, or if we were going to see like staffers again, or like for a lot of us, it was like, wow, like this might be the end, like of my TeenPact journey. And it was just like, wow, like it's ending like this. But, looking back, I just see like the profound hand of God's faithfulness, like through everything. And I'm so glad that experience happened, because it really forced me personally to just trust the Lord when I had no answers. Like it literally, I had no other options. And it was exactly what I needed just personally in my life at that time. So like I look back at it as like, it's still sad. And every once in a while I'm like, wow, I wonder what like that season would have been like if we would have been able to do like those classes. I know like Luke, you and I were supposed to like Illinois a couple weeks after midseason together. And I'm like, wow, like what would have that been like? But the fact is like that didn't happen. And the Lord obviously thought the growth from not having a season would be better than us having a season. And that's something that in hindsight is so cool, that like the best thing we thought like the best thing was for us to have a season, but the Lord was like, no, it's not, there's going to be so much more growth, from not. And, it really just forced me to trust the Lord, when there seems to just be no answers in sight. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a really good reminder, too, of how oftentimes we think our plans are set in stone, or we think one way, but then the Lord just has another way, or the Lord really just shows us that when the waves of life come crashing down on us, that He has a way. He is that way maker, and that even though we might not be able to see it in that moment, the Lord has a plan for us, and the Lord is still growing us.
Right.
Kind of to segue that, as you were an intern, you were also, so you got a yes letter to intern, but you also got a no letter to intern, correct?
Right. Yeah.
So could you talk, because I know we have a couple of listeners who, some have gotten yes letters, some may have gotten no letters. Could you maybe give some advice to people who have both gotten their yes letters, maybe some advice to, now them going into staffing, or if they got a no letter, because you kind of have a special experience of having both of those?
Yeah. For people who got a yes letter, like it is a big responsibility. Like it's something to be very excited about, but it literally is not worth it going to your head at all. Like the time I spent away from TeenPact, like after the 2021 season was over, I realized how small TeenPact is in compared to the rest of the world, and how like when I would be like, oh yeah, like I served as a staffer and like an intern and program director for this nonprofit ministry, people were like, cool, like, and that was it. Like it had absolutely no clout like outside of TeenPact. And I don't say that to minimize the impact that you can have inside the ministry at all and outside, but I do say that to instead just warn against any sort of like pride going to your head about like, wow, I'm a staffer, or like, wow, I'm so cool. Like I've been given this position because of my great leadership skills. Yeah, like several staffers were given that position because of their great leadership skills, and that's something to praise the Lord for and thank the Lord for, and just remember that He's the giver of all good things, and all blessings. So I just like to summarize that, I just say to just try and stay humble, as cliche as that sounds, and just realize that serving with TeenPact is about serving. Like as simple as that sounds, like serving as a staffer, it's about serving. It's not about any sort of thing that you can get out of it, or that TeenPact can give to you, or any sort of clout you might get like as a staff or anything like that. And then on the flip side, like, yeah, I was denied for intern my first time applying. Literally like one of the best experiences to ever happen to me. I just received so much good and practical feedback on how I could improve different practical things, and just some like life and character advice and things that they were like, yeah, like we would love to see you grow in this area. Like this is something that you may think is small, but it's affecting your ability to minister to people. And that was the first time I'd ever been told no by TeenPact. And so like I handled it, I think pretty, I was really disappointed. But in hindsight, literally it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And so I know that a no can really seem just devastating, low key, like in that time. But by encouragement, like if someone who's listening has been told no by TeenPact or by any other avenue, or anything like that, who've experienced something like that, like I would just encourage you to trust the Lord and just realize that there is so much working behind the scenes that we don't see. And that the Lord truly has a plan and has our good in mind, and has growth for us in mind, regardless of what that looks like or what we might think it should have looked like.
Yeah, that's such good advice. So looking back to 2020, the season did get canceled, but your internship did not end with TeenPact. You guys participated in a large ministry fund campaign to try to save up money to kind of make sure that TeenPact still continued for the years on. What did that look like exactly, trying to work to raise money for TeenPact?
It was, it was a really neat experience because I got to work with my friends again, really. We all, on the intern team, we were all like doing everything we could, chipping in like personal money, talking to people at church, trying to shore up donations, just advertising, sharing things like on our Instagram stories, things like that. Just like getting the word out there that like TeenPact is doing so much good, to the world and to the United States. And the Lord is just using it in so many incredible ways. And we care about it, and we want the ministry to continue. And like something that was really encouraging to me was just seeing so many people like come out of the woodwork, that had been like former like staffers and interns, program directors, things like that, or former students, like sharing things online and really just getting out the word. I remember the day we surpassed the goal was a really, really big day. I can't remember exactly how much it was, what the goal was. But I remember the day that we surpassed it. It was super, super exciting. And it was just like one of those things that's like, all right, well, we've met the goal, and now it's up to the Lord, to see everything through. So, now that we're on the other side, the Lord absolutely saw the ministry through. We're in all 50 states now, which is literally like such a blessing. Like we were like, the ministry was like on the brink of like not existing, like last year, and now like we're in all 50 states, and that's because the hand of God is mighty, and He is active, and He is moving in TeenPact, and He is using TeenPact, and it is such a cool thing. So that campaign to raise that money was just, again, such a testament of the Lord's faithfulness, and it was a really, really neat opportunity just to see that tangibly.
Yeah, that's awesome. The Lord's faithfulness was definitely present Yeah, that's awesome. The Lord's faithfulness was definitely present in that whole time. Kind of moving on from your experience with the internship into your experience with being an elected official at NatCon. Can you tell us a little bit about what exactly you ran for, what exactly you won, and just a little bit about your experience with that?
Yeah, so first off, I was always someone who was terrified of public speaking, and I still am sometimes. And so I remember going to my first national convention, 2015. I had no idea what elected officials were, anything like that. But I remember seeing the State of the Nation by, I think Caleb Fitzpatrick was the president, or he was the outgoing president that year. And I remember just sitting through primaries and everything, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like, I could never do that. I remember just thinking like, that's not for me though. Like that's neat, but I don't think I can do that. And then like the more I thought of it over the summer, I was like, wow, like this is something I want to pursue. And like I ran at state class and like didn't win, but like the next year I was like, I'm gonna run, and like I ran for representative. That was 2016. And I made it out of primaries. I was really surprised and like so excited, like over the moon. And then I didn't end up winning, but it was a really neat opportunity, and I was very determined. I'm very competitive, so I was like, I'm gonna come back, like I'm gonna run again. Like this is I'm not gonna say no to this. And so I came back the next year and I won, which was really, really crazy. And I just have so many like fun memories from that, like NatCon specifically. That was 2017. I just ran with a bunch of friends. Were also running, and I sat with a bunch of them on election night, and I remember I remember winning, and just I was shocked and just like absolutely blown away. And then like the friends I was sitting with, they also won, and it was just like such a neat opportunity. And then the next year I ran for senator, and I won that as well, which was super fun. And let me back up a little bit. During like I won in 2017 for representative, and I was in the Hale McHugh administration, and that was a really, I think that administration specifically was a big turning point as far as how involved elected officials were, in organization, etc. We did a lot that year. We started the elected officials blog post, which was so neat. Such a cool opportunity just to be a part of that administration. And then the next year when I was a senator in the Golden Moss administration, Carissa, who had also been an elected official a couple of years back, really had a vision for just keeping the elected officials team like moving forward. And also I think there were 3 of us senators that year who had served together in Hale McHugh. It was like Micah Burke, Hannah Freeland, and I. We had served as representatives in Hale McHugh, and we were senators in the Gould DeMoss administration. And so just together with Carissa, we all just, and Toby DeMoss as well, like we all just worked really hard together in moving everything forward with the elected officials. In those 2 years, like we made the elected officials handbook, we did the blog posts, we started the elected officials Instagram account, which, is still being used, which is really neat. So yeah, it was a really, really awesome time. I absolutely loved it. The next year, 2019, I ran for president. I wasn't going to run. Like I told myself, like I wasn't really interested. And then, I ended up running because I was like, you know what, like no one else was. Like my friend Toby, the guy who was president, he was running, and I was like, literally no one's running against him. And Toby's someone I've known for a very long time, and someone that I just dearly love. And I was like, you know what, like I think I might throw my hat in the ring. And it was a very chaotic, I remember just everything being very chaotic, and I was like, this is crazy. Like I felt like I was just like herding cats. Like it was nuts. But it was such a fun experience. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Didn't win, but like who cares? It was great. And I was like, I was thrilled for Toby and Madeline as well. Like they're 2 people I respect a ton. And like Toby's awesome, one of my best friends, one of my oldest TeenPact friends, which is neat. So yeah, I absolutely loved running for office, and in serving for a couple of years. It was a really neat experience. It really stretched me as far as like public speaking and just like basic stuff like that. And I just look back and I'm just very thankful for that time. So,
yeah, absolutely. That's such a cool experience. What advice, and not even just specifically talking about the national level at NatCon, but also on the state level, what advice would you give to people who are maybe shy about running, whether that's at the state class or at NatCon, or maybe they don't think they're good enough to run, or smart enough or a well enough public speaker? What advice would you give someone to kind of motivate them to run either at their state class or at national convention?
Literally just do it. Like, don't listen to those thoughts that are in your head, those like negative like self-doubting thoughts. Just like if you like feel called to that sort of leadership and you feel like you could either do a good job of like representing your state class, like as senator, and giving a really good speech at graduation, you have something you feel like the Lord's been calling you to share, or at like national convention, literally do it. Like, don't let any sort of limitations that you put on yourself dictate your actions. No one likes that at all. And just trust the Lord with it, because you never know like who could be impacted by the words that the Lord gives you. So it's just like running for office is such a good way to step out, and it gives you a chance to meet new people, to practice your public speaking skills, to kind of get over that like kind of initial like stage fright fear, of like, oh no, what if I get out there and like puke and pass out, It gives you a chance to hopefully not do that. So I would just say go for it, because you never know what could happen.
Yeah. So kind of wrapping up, for your last question, I was wondering, where do you think TeenPact is headed in the future?
Great question. I think that personally, I think TeenPact is going to just continue the ministry that they've been doing, and just continue to develop as time goes on. Like I can't read the future, like none of us can at all, but clearly the Lord's hand is at work through this ministry, which is so cool. And I am just very confident that the Lord will still use TeenPact in the coming years, just to further his kingdom. I've just seen so much of it tangibly on the road with TeenPact, on classes, at alumni events, etc. And I'm just blown away and just so grateful that the Lord has continued to use that ministry as much as he has, and I'm just very hopeful that he will continue to for as long as he wants to.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. Isaac, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
I know Noah and I truly appreciate it. And stay tuned for another episode of the TeenPact Elected Officials podcast next week.